everybody. So I have a couple different hip drills for you to work on your mobility coming out of those hip joints, those sockets, to help you improve your kicks, get them higher, have more range of motion, and hopefully keeping them all pain-free as always. So first we're going to start with doing a drill called a 90-90 shin box. To do that, we have our legs out to the side. That's where this 90-90 comes from. Your femur of that front leg is going straight out. Your back leg is going straight out to the side, so we create our 90-90 position here. Creating our triangle with our shin box and keeping that back leg bent as well. And while attempting to maintain your sit bones on the ground, it's not going to happen right away. This comes with that flexibility. And keeping our spine straight, we're going to work on leaning forward. You can use hand support, keeping your back straight until you feel a pretty good stretch out of that front hip. You'll pause there for a couple seconds, and then nice and slow, you're going to lean backwards, still keeping our spine nice and straight and our belly button pulled into our spine. We're going to lean back so we get a stretch in the front of our back leg, out of our hip flexors and the hip capsule. And while you're holding this position back, I want you to also focus on driving this front knee down. So if you lean back and you feel like this leg's popping up, I want you to squeeze your glutes to really work on pushing your knee down into the ground. And we'll rock back and forth, getting a stretch out of both legs. About 4 or 5 times, pausing a few seconds between each before we work on transitioning to the other leg. So to transition, you can either just work on switching legs and switching sides from where you are, or work on some more hip mobility. And you plant your feet in front of you and keeping those sit bones on the ground and your spine nice and tall. You're going to rotate forward and then to the other side. And then repeating that same action. So nice and tall, we're bracing our core, leaning forward and backward, driving our knees down into the ground. Doing it 4 or 5 times in each direction this way as well. Getting a stretch out of the back and the front of those legs. Another good stretch to work on your mobility in your hip. A lot of people forget about those muscles in your inner thigh. Those can really limit you when you're doing your side kicks, even doing a roundhouse or a front kick. So to do that, we call these adductor rocking. So we're going to start in what's called a gate position from yoga. With one leg out to the side, you may already feel a stretch in that inner thigh. We can put hands down on the ground, and we're going to work on rocking our hips backward like you were going to sit back into seiza on this support leg. So just sitting back, which will intensify that stretch. So you go as far as tolerable for you. Stretching and working on mobility inherently is uncomfortable, but you should not have any sharp shooting or stabbing, ripping kind of pains. If you are, you're pushing it too far. So always listen to your body. And as we're doing this, we want to make sure, as always, we're aware of the rest of our body and our posturing. So trying to keep chest up, our core tight, and our spine straight. So we're not collapsing into ourselves. Working on stretching that inner thigh. And then our last motion, we're going to start from a standing position. been working on some hip rotation. So you'll notice we'll start from a chamber. So you can either have hands on your hips, so you're making sure you're keeping your hips level and we're not rocking side to side too much as we're doing this. Or if you feel comfortable, you can put them up in a guard or at your side. I like to hold my hips so I know if I'm tipping one way or another, but we're gonna work on some rotation, some internal and external rotation. We'll start from a chamber at 90 degrees and swinging the foot back and forth as far as you can. Give a little bit of an oomph on each side, trying to push it a little further without letting your hips jut out to the side in either direction as you do it. So you should be staying up nice and tall. The only thing moving is your leg. From there, we can progress it when you feel comfortable as maintaining our chamber and rotating into external rotation as a whole. So working on opening our leg and our hip up to the side. Still maintaining upright posture without deviating or compensating with the low back. So nice and smooth up, nice and smooth to the side as far as you can, bringing it back in and down. So give these a practice. Do 5 or so on each side as often as you feel comfortable doing them. It's a good addition to your normal workout to improve your overall hip mobility.
Thank you, Alexandra. This will be useful for all our students.